The smell of cinnamon and vanilla filled the kitchen as Emma Rodriguez carefully pulled a tray of fresh cookies from the oven. Christmas morning sunlight streamed through the windows of the downtown Chicago penthouse, making the marble countertops gleam. At 8 months pregnant, every movement required careful planning, but she had wanted everything to be perfect. Derek loved her Christmas cookies, the recipe passed down from her grandmother. She had been baking since 5 in the morning, determined to make this Christmas special despite the growing distance she felt between them lately. Emma placed one hand on her swollen belly, feeling her daughter kick enthusiastically. The baby always seemed more active in the mornings, as if excited to start the day. Emma smiled, humming along to the Christmas carols playing softly from the speaker in the corner. She had wrapped Derek's gifts the night before after he fell asleep, a new watch and a framed photo of their ultrasound. She imagined his face when he opened them, hoped it would bring back the warmth that had somehow disappeared from his eyes over the past few months. The bedroom door opened and Emma turned with a smile, ready to wish her husband a Merry Christmas. But Derek Blackwell walked into the kitchen wearing a suit, not the pajamas she expected. His expression was cold, businesslike, the look he usually reserved for difficult clients. He carried a manila envelope in one hand and his phone in the other, checking messages as he walked. Emma's smile faltered. "Derek? I thought we were spending the morning together. I made your favorite cookies and I have your gifts ready under the tree." Derek set the envelope on the kitchen counter between them, right next to the cooling cookies. He poured himself coffee without looking at her, adding cream and sugar with mechanical precision. The silence stretched out uncomfortably, broken only by the cheerful Christmas music that now seemed obscene. "We need to talk," Derek finally said, his voice flat. "I'm filing for divorce. The papers are in the envelope. I need you to sign them by tomorrow." Emma felt the words hit her like a physical blow. Her hand gripped the counter for support. The baby kicked again, harder this time, as if sensing her mother's distress. "What? Derek, it's Christmas morning. This is some kind of joke, right? Do I look like I'm joking?" Derek took a sip of his coffee, still not meeting her eyes. "This marriage was a mistake. I've realized that for a while now. I need to move on with my life, and frankly, you're holding me back." Emma's legs felt weak. She pulled out a kitchen chair and lowered herself into it carefully. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. They had been married for 3 years. They were about to have a baby. How could he stand there so calmly destroying everything? "Holding you back? Derek, I'm 8 months pregnant with your daughter. We planned this baby. You said you wanted a family." Derek finally looked at her, and Emma barely recognized the coldness in his eyes. "Plans change. People change. I've met someone else, someone who actually understands my ambitions. Brittany is young, driven, connected to the right people. Her father sits on the board of 3 major real estate investment firms. She's what I need right now." The name hit Emma like a second blow. Brittany Chase. She knew exactly who Derek was talking about. A 26-year-old socialite with a massive social media following, always photographed at charity galas and exclusive clubs. Emma had seen her at one of Derek's business events 2 months ago, noticed how Derek's attention had lingered on her. When Emma mentioned it later, Derek had laughed it off, called her paranoid and hormonal. She had believed him, trusted him, felt guilty for even questioning his loyalty. "How long?" Emma's voice came out as a whisper. "How long have you been seeing her? Does it really matter? 5 months, 6 maybe. Look, I'm not trying to be cruel here. I'm just being honest. You knew I was ambitious when you married me. You knew building my real estate empire was my priority." Emma thought about the past 5 months. Her second trimester, when she had been so sick she could barely work. When Derek had stopped coming home for dinner, claiming late meetings and important clients. When he had stopped touching her, stopped asking about the baby, stopped being present in their life together. She had blamed herself, thought maybe she was not attractive anymore, not interesting enough, too focused on the pregnancy. Now she understood. He had already left her emotionally, had been planning this exit while she decorated a nursery and dreamed about their future as a family. "I left my job for you," Emma said, her voice stronger now. "I was junior architect at Morrison & Associates. I had a career, Derek. You asked me to quit, said we needed to focus on your business, that my salary was not significant compared to what you would be making. You said once your deals came through, I could go back to work or pursue my own projects. I believed you. And I believed my deals would come through. They have not. That's not my fault. The market has been difficult, investors are cautious. I've had setbacks. Setbacks." Emma remembered the credit cards she had opened in her name because Derek's credit was supposedly tied up in business ventures. The personal loan she had co-signed for $40,000. The savings she had contributed to the down payment on this penthouse, money her mother had given her from years of running her small bakery. Money that was supposed to be for emergencies, for their future, for their child. What about the baby? What about our daughter? Derek set down his coffee cup with a sharp click against the marble. "I'll pay child support, whatever the courts decide. But I'm not interested in playing house with you anymore. Brittany and I are making this official. We're announcing our engagement tonight at her family's New Year's Eve party. I wanted you to know first, to give you time to sign the papers and move out before it goes public." Emma stared at him. This man she had loved, had trusted with her life and her future. She had met Derek 4 years ago at a real estate conference where she was presenting architectural designs for mixed-use developments. He had been charming, confident, full of big dreams and bigger promises. He had pursued her aggressively, sending flowers to her office, taking her to expensive restaurants, introducing her to his world of luxury and ambition. She had been dazzled by it all, by him, by the life he promised they would build together. Her mother had warned her. Linda Rodriguez had looked at Derek with suspicion from the first meeting, told Emma there was something off about a man who talked so much about money and status. But Emma had been in love, had defended Derek, accused her mother of being overprotective and old-fashioned. They had gotten married at a courthouse with just 2 witnesses because Derek said big weddings were a waste of money better invested in their future. Emma had agreed, thought it was romantic, just the 2 of them starting their life together. "You need to leave," Emma said quietly. "Right now. Get out." Derek raised an eyebrow. "This is my apartment. Technically, it's a rental in my name. You need to leave. You have 48 hours to pack your things and go. That's generous considering the circumstances. Your apartment? I paid half the deposit. I've been paying half the rent for 3 years. Prove it. The lease is in my name only. The deposits came from accounts in my name. If you want to argue about it, hire a lawyer. But I'll warn you now, my attorney is very good and very expensive. You don't have the resources to fight me on this." Emma felt her face flush with anger and humiliation. She had been so stupid, so trusting. Every financial decision had been made in Derek's name because he said it was better for his business credit. She had agreed to everything, signed everything, believed everything. The door opened before Emma could respond, and Patricia Blackwell swept into the apartment like a winter storm. Derek's mother had her own key, something Emma had never been comfortable with but had learned to accept. Patricia was in her early 60s, impeccably dressed in a cream cashmere coat and pearls, her silver hair styled in a perfect bob. She looked at Emma with the same expression she might give a stain on her expensive carpet. "Good, you told her," Patricia said to Derek, removing her leather gloves with deliberate slowness. "I was worried you might lose your nerve." Emma felt her stomach drop. "You knew about this?" "Knew about it? Darling, I encouraged it. You were never right for my son. I told him that 3 years ago, but he would not listen. Young men sometimes make impulsive decisions based on physical attraction rather than practical compatibility. But thankfully, Derek has finally come to his senses. Emma stood up slowly, her hand bracing against her lower back. The baby was pressing on her spine, making everything ache. Practical compatibility? Is that what you call marriage? Marriage in families like ours is a strategic alliance. You brought nothing to this union except mediocre looks and a pregnant belly that trapped my son into responsibility he was not ready for. Brittany Chase, on the other hand, comes from the right background. Her father's connections will open doors for Derek that your little architecture degree never could. The casual cruelty in Patricia's voice was worse than Derek's cold indifference. Emma had spent 3 years trying to win this woman's approval, changing how she dressed, how she spoke, what she ate. She had attended Patricia's charity events, smiled through backhanded compliments, endured constant criticism about everything from her career choices to her pregnancy weight gain. And for what? For this moment, standing 8 months pregnant in her own kitchen being told she was worthless. I want both of you out of my apartment, Emma said, her voice shaking but firm. Now. Patricia laughed, a harsh sound without warmth. Your apartment? Oh, you poor deluded girl. This apartment, like everything else in your life, belongs to my son. The sooner you accept that and sign those papers, the easier this will be for everyone. And if I do not sign? If I fight this? Patricia's expression hardened. Then we will make your life very difficult. My family has connections throughout Chicago. Every law firm, every judge, every business that might employ you. And your mother's little bakery? Rodriguez Custom Cakes? It would be such a shame if health inspectors suddenly found violations. If her suppliers decided not to work with her anymore. If her wealthy clients started canceling orders. These things happen when people make enemies of the wrong families. Emma felt ice flood her veins. Threatening her was one thing, but threatening her mother crossed a line she had not known existed. Linda Rodriguez had built her bakery from nothing, working 16-hour days for 20 years to create something successful and respected. It was her mother's pride, her legacy, her security. You would not dare. Try me, Patricia said calmly. Sign the papers, take whatever pathetic child support the courts decide, and disappear from our lives. That is your only option that does not end in complete destruction. The apartment door burst open and Jenny Chen rushed in, still in her pajamas with a coat thrown over them. Emma's best friend since college, Jenny lived 3 floors down and had a spare key for emergencies. She looked from Emma's pale face to Derek's cold expression to Patricia's satisfied smile and immediately understood something terrible was happening. Emma, what's going on? I heard shouting. We were just leaving, Derek said, picking up his phone and the manila envelope. He placed the envelope back on the counter in front of Emma. Sign the papers by tomorrow. Jenny can witness your signature. After that, you have 48 hours to vacate. Derek and his mother left together, Patricia's heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown to Emma's destruction. The door closed with a soft click that somehow sounded final. Emma stood frozen, staring at the manila envelope, while Jenny rushed over and wrapped her arms around her. Talk to me. What just happened? Emma's voice came out flat, emotionless, like she was describing something that had happened to someone else. Derek wants a divorce. He's been having an affair for 6 months. He's engaged to Brittany Chase. I have 2 days to leave this apartment. His mother threatened to destroy my mom's business if I fight it. Jenny pulled back, her face furious. That absolute piece of garbage. On Christmas morning? While you're pregnant with his child? I'm calling the police. And tell them what? He served me divorce papers. That is not illegal. And the apartment is in his name. I have no proof I paid anything. I was stupid, Jenny. So incredibly stupid. You trusted your husband. That is not stupid, that is what you are supposed to do in a marriage. Jenny grabbed her phone. We need to document everything. Take photos of the papers, record any conversations. We need to get you a lawyer. With what money? I have maybe $8,000 in my personal account. Everything else went into Derek's business or this apartment or our life together. I cannot afford a lawyer who can compete with the Blackwell family attorneys. Emma's phone rang, an unknown number. She almost did not answer, but something made her pick up. A male voice, professional and calm, spoke before she could say hello. Miss Rodriguez? My name is Thomas Rivera. I'm an attorney with Sterling Legal Group. I represent your father, Robert Sterling. He would like to meet with you today, if possible. He says it's urgent. Emma's brain stuttered to a halt. I'm sorry, what? My father died before I was born. Car accident. My mother showed me the death certificate. Silence on the other end, then carefully measured words. Miss Rodriguez, your father is very much alive. He's been looking for you, or rather, he's been watching over you from a distance for 28 years. He knows about your situation with Derek Blackwell. He wants to help. He's asked me to tell you that he's at the Mercy Street shelter right now, volunteering for their Christmas dinner service. He's hoping you will come meet him. 2 o'clock this afternoon, if you are able. Emma looked at Jenny, whose expression had gone from furious to confused. Is this some kind of scam? Because today is really not the day for this. I understand your skepticism. Your father anticipated you would not believe me. He asked me to tell you something only he would know. He said to tell you about the purple elephant. Emma's hand went to her throat. The purple elephant. When she was 5 years old, she had won a small purple stuffed elephant at a school carnival. She had loved that elephant more than any toy she owned, carried it everywhere, slept with it every night. One day, it went missing. Emma had been heartbroken, searched the entire apartment for weeks. Then, mysteriously, it reappeared on her bed with a note that said, I will always come back to you. Her mother had claimed she found it in the laundry, but Emma had always wondered about that note, written in handwriting she did not recognize. How do you know about that? Because your father left it. He's been part of your life in small ways you never knew about. Scholarships that seemed to come from nowhere. Your college tuition that was mysteriously paid off. The down payment on your first car that you thought came from your grandmother's estate. That was all him, trying to help without interfering in the life your mother built for you. But now you need more than anonymous help. You need protection. Please, Miss Rodriguez. Give him 2 hours of your time. If you decide you want nothing to do with him after that, he'll respect your wishes and disappear again. Emma hung up the phone and looked at Jenny. My supposedly dead father is alive and wants to meet me at a homeless shelter in 3 hours. Jenny blinked. Okay. So this is officially the weirdest and worst Christmas ever. Are you going? Emma thought about Derek's cold eyes, Patricia's threats, the divorce papers on her kitchen counter. She thought about the purple elephant and the mysterious scholarships and the feeling she had always had that someone was watching over her. She thought about her daughter, 8 months along, who would need a family and protection and a future that was not built on lies. Yes. I'm going. The Mercy Street shelter occupied an old brick building on the south side of Chicago, decorated with Christmas lights and a banner that read, All are welcome here. Emma parked her car across the street, engine running, heat on full blast. She had been sitting there for 20 minutes, unable to make herself go inside. Jenny sat beside her in the passenger seat, holding her hand. You do not have to do this today. We can leave right now. No. I need to know. I need to understand why my mother lied to me my entire life. Through the windshield, Emma could see volunteers serving Christmas dinner to families in need. Children ran around laughing, older people sat at long tables talking and eating. And by the entrance, ringing a bell and greeting everyone who entered, stood a man dressed as Santa Claus. Not a mall Santa, something more authentic. Real white beard, kind eyes, genuine smile. Something about the way he moved seemed familiar. Emma got out of the car, walked slowly across the street. 8 months pregnant in the cold, every step felt like wading through water. The man dressed as Santa saw her when she was still 20 feet away. He stopped ringing the bell, just stood there watching her approach. As she got closer, Emma saw his eyes. Blue. Exactly the same shade as hers. The same shape, the same intensity. Like looking into a mirror that showed her 40 years into the future. Emma, he said. Not a question. He knew. Robert? She could not call him father. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Thank you for coming. I know this must be confusing and frightening. I'm so sorry for the circumstances that brought us to this moment. Up close, Emma could see the man beneath the Santa costume. Expensive watch partially hidden under red velvet. Custom shoes beneath the boot covers. This was not some street corner volunteer. This was someone with money, real money, playing a role. Thomas Rivera said you wanted to help me. Why? You've been gone my entire life. Why show up now? Robert removed the Santa beard carefully, revealing distinguished features weathered by time and what looked like genuine regret. Because I failed you once, 28 years ago when I chose building a business over being a father. I'm not going to fail you again. Not when you need help the most. Will you come inside? Let me explain everything. Emma followed him into the shelter, through the main hall where families ate Christmas dinner, into a small office that smelled like coffee and old paper files. Robert gestured to a chair. Emma sat carefully, her back aching, the baby doing gymnastics against her ribs. My mother told me you died in a car accident 3 months before I was born. Robert nodded slowly. Your mother did what she thought was best. I do not blame her. When Linda told me she was pregnant, I panicked. I was 26 years old, working 80 hours a week trying to get my tech startup off the ground. I had investors interested, but they wanted total commitment. No distractions. No family obligations. So I was a distraction. You were a responsibility I was not mature enough to handle. I told Linda I needed time to establish myself, make enough money to support a family properly. I promised I would come back, that I would be a father you could be proud of. She told me that was not how fatherhood worked. You could not pause it until it was convenient. Either I committed right then, during the hard part, or I should not come back at all. And you chose not to come back. Robert's voice was rough with emotion. I chose wrong. I chose my company, my ambition, my ego. I told myself I was doing it for you and Linda, that I would build something so successful that I could provide everything you needed. But that was a lie I told myself to justify being a coward. Emma felt tears burning behind her eyes but refused to let them fall. So why the Santa costume? Why volunteer at a shelter? Because 20 years ago, I realized I had everything I thought I wanted. Billions of dollars, multiple companies, houses around the world, respect in the business community. And I had nothing that actually mattered. No family. No real connections. Just money and emptiness. So I started volunteering here, trying to give back, trying to be useful to people who needed help. Trying to be the man I should have been all along. And watching me from a distance? The scholarships and the money? Your mother refused to take anything directly from me. Said she would not let me buy my way into your life. But she agreed to accept anonymous help for your education and major expenses. She always put you first, Emma. Even when it hurt her pride, even when she was working 3 jobs, she accepted help if it meant giving you opportunities. Emma thought about her mother, about Linda Rodriguez, who had raised her alone while running a bakery, who had never complained or spoken bitterly about Emma's father, who had always been there for every school play and soccer game and college graduation. Her mother, who had lied, but maybe for the right reasons. How did you know about Derek? About the divorce? Robert pulled out a folder from his desk drawer, thick with documents and photographs. I've had investigators monitoring your life for years. Not intrusively, just making sure you were safe and happy. When you announced your pregnancy 6 months ago on social media, I had them look more closely at Derek Blackwell. What they found was deeply concerning. He opened the folder, spread documents across the desk. Emma saw financial records, bank statements, credit reports, text messages. Her hands trembled as she picked up the first page. Derek's real estate company was not just struggling. It was a complete fraud. Every property deal, every investment opportunity, every wealthy client was either fabricated or funded entirely with borrowed money he could not repay. He's bankrupt, Robert said quietly. Has been for 18 months. The penthouse you live in is 3 months behind on rent. His car is leased and about to be repossessed. That watch he wears everywhere is a very good fake, but it is fake. Everything about Derek Blackwell's life is a performance. Emma flipped through more pages. Credit card statements showing maxed out limits. Loan applications rejected by every bank in Illinois. Legal threats from creditors. And then she found the text messages, exchanges between Derek and Brittany Chase dating back 7 months, not 6. Messages that made Emma's stomach turn. I need someone stable, someone with good credit and family money I can access. Derek's message from 7 months ago. Brittany's response, what about your wife? She's useful for now. Co-signed some loans, opened joint credit cards. But her family has no real money and she's pregnant. That complicates things. Your father's connections are more valuable. I just need to time this right. Emma read through more messages, each one worse than the last. Derek discussing how to maximize child support while minimizing custody. Brittany helping him research prenuptial agreement loopholes. Patricia Blackwell suggesting lawyers who specialized in making divorces as painful as possible for the wife. They had planned this for months, strategized every detail, treated Emma's life like a business transaction to be optimized. He married me for my credit score and my mother's bakery connections, Emma said, her voice hollow. I was never a wife to him. I was a financial resource to be exploited. Yes. And now that you are pregnant and unable to work, now that he's found someone with better connections and more money, you have become a liability he wants to eliminate. Emma closed the folder, unable to look at any more evidence of how completely she had been fooled. Patricia threatened my mother's business. Said she would destroy it if I fight the divorce. Robert's expression hardened. Patricia Blackwell has been making those kinds of threats for 30 years. She's a bully from an old money family that is rapidly losing their wealth and influence. Her threats are real, but they are not unstoppable. Not if you have someone with actual power standing beside you. You want to fight them for me. I want to protect my daughter and my granddaughter. I want to do what I should have done 28 years ago. Be there when you need me. Use the resources I built to help the people I should have been helping all along. Robert leaned forward. Let me hire you attorneys. Real ones, the kind that make families like the Blackwells think twice before making threats. Let me make sure you and your baby are safe and provided for. Not because I am trying to buy your forgiveness or your love. But because it is the right thing to do. Because I owe you 28 years of child support and protection. Because I am your father, even if I have been a terrible one. Emma put her hand on her belly, felt her daughter kick strong and insistent. This baby girl would be born into a broken family, just like Emma had been. But maybe she did not have to grow up with the same lies and absences. Maybe they could break the cycle. If I let you help, it does not mean we have a relationship. It does not mean I forgive you or that I will suddenly call you dad and let you play grandfather. I understand. I would not expect anything different. And I need to talk to my mother. Hear her side of everything before I make any decisions about you being in my life long term. Of course. Linda deserves to tell her own story. Emma stood up slowly, the world tilting slightly as blood rushed to her head. Robert reached out to steady her, then stopped himself, hands hovering uncertainly. She saw something in his face then, something raw and honest. Regret. Real regret, not the performative kind Derek specialized in. One more thing, Robert said. I have investigators watching Derek and Patricia. If they try anything, any threats or intimidation, you call me immediately. And if you go into labor, if anything happens with the pregnancy, you call me. I know I have not earned the right to be there. But I am asking you to let me try. Emma took his business card, heavy stock with embossed lettering. Sterling Industries. Robert Sterling, CEO and founder. A phone number with a direct line, no assistant or receptionist. She put it in her purse next to the divorce papers she had brought with her. I will think about it. That is all I can promise right now. That is more than I deserve. Thank you for coming today, Emma. Thank you for giving me a chance to explain. Emma left the shelter, walked back to her car where Jenny was waiting. As they drove away, she looked in the rearview mirror and saw Robert standing in his Santa costume, watching her leave. He lifted one hand in a small wave. Emma did not wave back. But she did not throw away his business card either. The law offices of Sterling Legal Group occupied the entire 42nd floor of the Willis Tower, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering views of Chicago's skyline and Lake Michigan beyond. Emma sat in a conference room that probably cost more per square foot than her childhood apartment, trying not to feel intimidated. Jenny sat beside her, taking notes on everything. Thomas Rivera sat across from them with two other attorneys, all of them radiating the kind of confidence that came from never losing. Before we discuss strategy, Thomas said, I want to make something clear. Robert Sterling is paying all legal fees, but I work for you, Miss Rodriguez. Not for him. Your interests are my only concern. If at any point you are uncomfortable with how we are handling your case, you say so and we adjust. Understood? Emma nodded, grateful for the clarification. The past 3 days had been a whirlwind of meetings, document reviews, and emotional conversations with her mother that had left both of them in tears. Linda Rodriguez had explained everything. The young love that turned toxic when money and ambition entered the picture. The impossible choice between raising a child alone or watching that child grow up feeling abandoned whenever Robert prioritized his business. The death certificate had been Linda's way of giving Emma closure, of protecting her from the pain of having a father who was alive but absent. I understand you did what you thought was best, Emma had told her mother. But please, no more lies. About anything. I need to trust you. Linda had promised, and Emma chose to believe her. Now, sitting in this conference room preparing to fight Derek and his family, Emma felt something she had not felt in days. Hope. Maybe even the beginning of determination. Let's start with the prenuptial agreement, Thomas said, sliding a document across the table. Derek's lawyer presented this to you 2 days before your wedding, correct? Yes. He said it was standard, that all successful businessmen had prenups. He said if I trusted him and believed in our marriage, should not have any problem signing it. Classic manipulation. And you had no independent attorney review it? Derek said that would show I did not trust him. That it would insult him to have a lawyer picking apart what was supposed to be a straightforward document. Thomas's expression darkened. The prenup states that in the event of divorce, you receive nothing except state minimum child support. All property acquired during the marriage remains Derek's sole property. You agree to an NDA regarding your marriage and cannot speak publicly about your relationship. And you are responsible for half of all debts incurred during the marriage, even though your name is not on most of them. Is that even legal? Legal but absolutely voidable. You signed under duress, without counsel, based on fraudulent representations of Derek's financial status. Any judge will throw this out. Especially when we present the evidence of Derek's actual financial situation. One of the other attorneys, a sharp-eyed woman named Rebecca Winters, opened her laptop. We have confirmed that Derek Blackwell is not just struggling financially. He is engaged in active fraud. He has been using your credit to secure loans he has no intention of repaying. He opened credit cards in your name without your knowledge. He has forged your signature on at least 3 documents we have found so far. Emma felt sick. How is that possible? Would I not have to be there? Would I not have known? He likely had someone forge your signature or use documents you signed for other purposes. We are looking into identity theft charges, but that will take time to prove. What matters right now is that we have enough evidence to not only void the prenup but to establish fraud, which changes everything about how we approach this divorce. Jenny leaned forward. What about Patricia's threats? The stuff about destroying Linda's bakery? Thomas smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Patricia Blackwell made a serious mistake. She threatened a witness to ongoing legal proceedings, which is witness intimidation. She also threatened economic harm as retaliation for legal action. Both are criminal offenses. We have Emma's testimony, we have Jenny's testimony about what she heard when she arrived at the apartment. And we have this. He pressed play on his laptop. Emma heard her own voice, then Derek's, then Patricia's. The entire Christmas morning conversation, recorded with crystal clarity. How do you have that? Your apartment building upgraded to smart home systems 6 months ago, including voice-activated assistants. The building manager, who happens to be a longtime client of Sterling Industries, provided us with the audio files. Everything said in that apartment is recorded and stored in the cloud. Patricia's threats are documented beyond any doubt. Emma stared at the laptop. I did not know those things recorded conversations. Most people do not read the fine print on their smart home agreements. Derek certainly did not. We have hours of conversations between him and Brittany, him and his mother, him and various business associates. All discussing his plans to divorce you, take your money, and leave you with nothing. Rebecca pulled up another document. We are filing multiple motions. First, immediate temporary restraining order against Derek and Patricia, prohibiting them from contacting you or your mother. Second, motion to void the prenuptial agreement based on fraud and duress. Third, motion for emergency spousal support and medical coverage for your pregnancy. Fourth, motion for exclusive use of the marital residence pending divorce proceedings. Wait, I can stay in the apartment? Not just stay. Derek has to leave. He served you divorce papers and tried to evict you while you are 8 months pregnant. No judge will allow that. He will be ordered to vacate the premises and continue paying rent until the divorce is finalized. Emma felt tears burning behind her eyes, but these were different tears. Not grief or humiliation. Something closer to relief. For 3 days she had been staying with her mother, sleeping in her childhood bedroom, feeling like she was 17 again. The thought of returning to the apartment, of having her home back, felt like a victory. When does all this happen? We file tomorrow morning. Emergency hearing is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. Judge Margaret Morrison is presiding. She's fair, no nonsense, and has a reputation for being particularly unsympathetic to men who abuse pregnant women. The next afternoon, Emma walked into the Cook County Courthouse wearing a navy maternity dress her mother had bought her, her hair pulled back in a simple bun. She looked exactly like what she was. A pregnant woman betrayed by the man who promised to love and protect her. Derek was already there with his attorney, a nervous-looking man in an ill-fitting suit. Fourth lawyer in 2 weeks, Thomas had told her. No reputable firm wanted to touch Derek's case once they reviewed the evidence. Derek looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his jaw, clothes rumpled like he had slept in them. He glared at Emma as she walked past, but she did not look at him. She kept her eyes forward, her hand on her belly, feeling her daughter kick as if offering moral support. Patricia was there too, sitting in the gallery with her arms crossed and a furious expression. But she was not sitting alone. Robert Sterling sat 3 rows behind her, watching everything with the calm focus of a man used to high-stakes negotiations. He caught Emma's eye and nodded once, small and respectful, not trying to insert himself into her moment. Just present. Available if needed. Otherwise silent. Judge Morrison entered, a woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair and reading glasses on a chain. She reviewed the files in front of her with the efficient speed of someone who had seen every kind of family law disaster imaginable. "Mr. Blackwell, you filed for divorce on Christmas morning?" Derek's attorney stood. "Yes, Your Honor. My client and Miss Rodriguez had been discussing separation for several months. The timing was unfortunate but not malicious." Discussing separation? Is that what we call serving someone divorce papers while they are making breakfast? "Your Honor, my client has been under significant financial stress. He was not thinking clearly about the optics." The optics. Judge Morrison looked at Derek over her reading glasses. "Mr. Blackwell, stand up please." Derek stood, trying to look confident but failing. His hands shook slightly. "You served your 8 months pregnant wife with divorce papers on Christmas morning, told her she had 48 hours to vacate the apartment you shared, and announced your engagement to another woman the same day. Do I have those facts correct?" "Your Honor, the marriage had been over for some time. We were both unhappy. I was simply formalizing what we both knew." "Did Miss Rodriguez know you had been having an affair for 7 months?" "That is not relevant to these proceedings. I will decide what is relevant." "Answer the question." Derek shifted uncomfortably. "I do not know what she knew." "Did you tell her you were having an affair?" "No." "Did you discuss separation or divorce with her before Christmas morning?" "Not explicitly, but the problems in our marriage were obvious." Judge Morrison made a note. "Obvious to you, perhaps. From where I am sitting, it looks like you blindsided a pregnant woman on Christmas morning because you found someone with better financial connections." She looked at the files again. "The prenuptial agreement. You presented this to Miss Rodriguez 2 days before your wedding?" "Yes, Your Honor. Standard practice for people in my financial situation." "Your financial situation being completely bankrupt with multiple creditors pursuing legal action?" Derek's face went red. "That is not accurate. I have had some temporary cash flow issues but my business is fundamentally sound." "Your business is fundamentally non-existent," Judge Morrison said flatly. "According to these financial disclosures, you have not had a legitimate real estate transaction in over a year. You have been surviving entirely on credit cards and loans taken out using your wife's credit. Is that incorrect?" Derek's attorney whispered frantically in his ear. "Your Honor, my client invokes his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination regarding financial matters currently under investigation." "How convenient." Judge Morrison turned to Thomas Rivera. "Counsel for Miss Rodriguez, what are you requesting?" Thomas stood smoothly. "Your Honor, we request that the prenuptial agreement be voided immediately based on fraud, duress, and lack of independent counsel. We request exclusive use of the marital residence for Miss Rodriguez pending final divorce proceedings. We request emergency spousal support of $6,000 per month and full medical coverage for the remainder of her pregnancy. We request a restraining order prohibiting Mr. Blackwell and his mother Patricia Blackwell from contacting Miss Rodriguez or her mother Linda Rodriguez. And we request that all marital debts incurred fraudulently in Miss Rodriguez's name be assigned solely to Mr. Blackwell." Judge Morrison looked at Derek. Do you have income to pay $6,000 per month in spousal support? No, Your Honor. I am currently between contracts. Between contracts or unemployed because every business contact you had has discovered you are a fraud? Judge Morrison did not wait for an answer. Here is my ruling. The prenuptial agreement is void. It was signed under false pretenses with no independent legal review. Mr. Blackwell, you misrepresented your financial status, which makes this agreement unenforceable. Derek's attorney tried to object, but Judge Morrison held up one hand. I am not finished. Miss Rodriguez will have exclusive use of the marital apartment through the end of the lease term. Mr. Blackwell, you will vacate the premises within 24 hours and you will continue paying rent through your lease obligation. Spousal support is granted at $6,000 per month until the child is born, at which point we will revisit based on child support calculations. Medical coverage for Miss Rodriguez will be provided through Mr. Blackwell's insurance, or, if that insurance is non-existent as I suspect, he will be responsible for all medical costs related to the pregnancy and delivery. Your Honor, my client cannot afford these payments. He has no income. Then he should get a job. Any job. He can work retail or food service like thousands of other people trying to support their families. His financial irresponsibility is not Miss Rodriguez's problem. Judge Morrison looked at the restraining order request. This is more concerning. Mrs. Blackwell, stand up please. Patricia stood slowly, her face pale. Did you threaten to destroy Linda Rodriguez's bakery business if Miss Rodriguez did not sign divorce papers? I merely pointed out the business realities of making enemies with well-connected families. That is a yes. You threatened economic retaliation against a third-party witness in order to coerce agreement to legal documents. That is witness intimidation. I am granting a full restraining order. Patricia Blackwell, you will have no contact with Emma Rodriguez or Linda Rodriguez. Direct, indirect, through third parties, through social media, in any form. If you violate this order, you will be arrested. Do you understand? Your Honor, I have a right to protect my son's interests. Your son's interests do not include threats and intimidation. Do you understand the terms of this restraining order? Patricia's jaw clenched. Yes, Your Honor. Good. Final matter. Mr. Blackwell, I am ordering a full financial disclosure and forensic accounting of all marital assets and debts. If we find evidence of identity theft, fraud, or any other criminal activity, I will refer this matter to the state's attorney. This hearing is adjourned. Final divorce proceedings are scheduled for March 15. The gavel came down with a crack that sounded like justice. Emma walked out of the courthouse with Thomas and Rebecca flanking her like bodyguards. Outside, the January air was brutally cold, but Emma barely felt it. She had won. Not the divorce, not yet, but this battle. This important first battle. Derek followed them out, his attorney trailing behind looking miserable. Emma, wait. We need to talk about this. No contact, Thomas said sharply. Restraining order includes verbal communication. Walk away, Mr. Blackwell. She is my wife. I have a right to talk to her. You have no rights except the ones the court granted you, which are currently none. Leave now or I call the police and have you arrested for violating a court order 5 minutes after it was issued. Derek looked at Emma, and for the first time she saw something other than cold calculation in his eyes. Fear. Real fear. His carefully constructed life was crumbling and he had no idea how to stop it. Part of Emma felt satisfaction at seeing him brought low. A smaller part, the part that had once loved him, felt something almost like pity. Almost. You destroyed my life, Derek said quietly. I had a future with Brittany. Her father was going to invest in my business. I had a chance to rebuild everything. You took that away from me. No, Emma said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. You destroyed your own life by being a liar and a fraud. All I did was stop letting you destroy mine too." She turned and walked toward the car where Jenny was waiting. Behind her, she heard Derek shouting something about how she would regret this, how his mother would make her pay, how she was making a huge mistake. The words washed over her without impact. Empty threats from a desperate man who had finally run out of people to exploit. Robert was standing by his car, engine running, watching to make sure she got safely to her vehicle. When Emma reached Jenny's car, she turned and looked at him. He was still in a suit from his office, not the Santa costume from the shelter. But somehow he looked the same, that careful expression of hope and regret mixed together. Emma lifted one hand in a small wave. Just an acknowledgement, nothing more. But Robert's face transformed, years of tension and sadness lifting for just a moment. He waved back, then got in his car and drove away, giving her space like he had promised. 2 weeks later, Emma was back in the apartment that was now legally hers until the lease ended. Jenny had helped her pack away Derek's remaining belongings, box them up and leave them in the building's storage. Every item of his clothing, every expensive accessory he could not actually afford, every reminder of the life they had built together got boxed and sealed and removed from her sight. Emma repainted the nursery herself, carefully covering the neutral beige Derek had insisted on with a soft lavender her mother suggested. She assembled the crib with Jenny's help, hung curtains, arranged stuffed animals. Creating a space that was hers, that belonged to her daughter, that had nothing to do with Derek or his lies. She was painting the final wall when her water broke. One moment she was adding lavender touches around the window frame, the next moment there was fluid running down her legs and a contraction hitting so hard she gasped and dropped the paintbrush. "Jenny!" Emma's voice came out as a yell. "Jenny, it is happening." Her best friend came running from the kitchen, took one look at Emma doubled over gripping the changing table, and immediately shifted into crisis mode. Okay. Hospital bag is ready. Car is downstairs. We practiced this. You are going to be fine. It is too early. I am only 37 weeks. Something is wrong. 37 weeks is full term. This is normal. The baby is ready. Let's go. Emma grabbed her phone with shaking hands, called her mother first. Linda answered on the second ring and said she would meet them at the hospital. Then, without really thinking about it, Emma scrolled to another number. Robert Sterling's direct line. He answered immediately, like he had been waiting. "Emma? Are you all right? I am in labor. We are going to Northwestern Memorial. I just thought you should know. In case you want to be there. You do not have to, but if you want to, you can." Silence on the other end, then Robert's voice thick with emotion. "I will be there. 20 minutes. Thank you for calling me. Thank you for giving me this chance." The labor was long and difficult and painful in ways Emma had not fully prepared for despite all the classes and books and advice. 14 hours of contractions that felt like her body was trying to turn inside out. Jenny held one hand, her mother held the other, and through it all Emma focused on breathing and pushing and the knowledge that at the end of this pain would be her daughter. Robert arrived an hour into her labor, still in his business suit, carrying flowers and looking terrified. He stayed in the waiting room, not pushing to be in the delivery room, just present if Emma wanted him. Every few hours Linda would go update him, tell him how things were progressing. He never left, just sat in the waiting room for 14 hours, waiting to meet his granddaughter. At 4:32 a.m. on Valentine's Day, Emma's daughter was born. 6 pounds, 8 ounces, perfect in every way. The nurse placed the baby on Emma's chest and Emma looked down at this tiny person who was half her and half Derek but completely her own. This little girl who would never doubt she was loved, who would never wonder if she was good enough, who would grow up knowing the truth even when the truth was complicated. "She is beautiful," Linda whispered, tears streaming down her face. "She looks just like you did when you were born." She has your nose, Emma said, smiling through her own tears. And maybe Robert's eyes. It is hard to tell yet. Do you want me to get him? Robert? He is still in the waiting room. He has been there all night. Emma looked at her daughter, this perfect tiny human who deserved a family even if that family was complicated and broken and still figuring itself out. Yes. Tell him he can come meet his granddaughter. If he promises not to be a stranger. If he promises to show up and be present and not disappear when things get hard. Linda left and returned a moment later with Robert, who looked like he had aged 10 years in 14 hours. His suit was rumpled, his hair messy, his eyes red. But when he saw the baby, when he saw Emma holding her daughter, his expression transformed into something Emma had never seen before. Pure joy mixed with regret and hope and love. "This is your granddaughter," Emma said quietly. "I have not named her yet. I wanted to wait until I met her. But I think maybe Violet. After the purple elephant you gave me when I was 5. The one that always came back." Robert's eyes filled with tears. "Violet is a perfect name. Can I hold her? If you are comfortable with that?" Emma carefully transferred her daughter into Robert's arms. He held Violet like she was made of glass, supporting her head with experienced care. For a man who had missed his own daughter's childhood, he seemed to know exactly how to hold a baby. "Hi, Violet," Robert whispered. "I am your grandfather. And I promise you something right now that I should have promised your mother 28 years ago. I will not miss anything. Not birthdays or school plays or soccer games or graduation. I will be there. Not with money or grand gestures. Just with presence. With showing up. That is my promise to you." Emma watched her father hold her daughter and felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness, not yet. That would take time and trust and Robert proving his promises were real. But maybe the beginning of something. A crack in the wall she had built around her heart, letting in the possibility that family could be complicated and still worth having. 3 months later, Emma sat in the same courthouse where her divorce hearing had been, but this time in a different courtroom. Final divorce proceedings. Violet was with her mother at the bakery, sleeping peacefully in the bassinet Linda kept behind the counter. Emma had returned to work part-time, freelance architecture projects that let her set her own schedule and work from home when needed. Robert had connected her with clients, businesses that needed design work and were willing to pay fair rates. Not charity. Real work that Emma was good at. Derek looked even worse than he had at the emergency hearing. Thinner, older, defeated. His 4th attorney had quit. He was representing himself now, which was almost painful to watch. The forensic accounting had revealed even more fraud than anyone expected. Identity theft, forged documents, loans taken out in Emma's name without her knowledge. The state's attorney was pursuing criminal charges. Brittany Chase had not just broken up with Derek. She had publicly destroyed him on social media, posting screenshots of their text messages where he admitted to using Emma. Her followers had turned on Derek viciously, his name now synonymous with fraud and cruelty. His LinkedIn had been deleted. His business contacts had all cut ties. He was working at a call center making $13 an hour, the only job he could find that did not require references. Judge Morrison reviewed the final settlement documents. "This divorce is granted. Mr. Blackwell, you are ordered to pay child support of $800 per month, which represents 30% of your current income. As your income increases, this amount will be recalculated. You are granted supervised visitation with your daughter 1 weekend per month, pending completion of parenting classes and psychological evaluation. Your Honor, I would like more custody time. She is my daughter too. Mr. Blackwell, you called your pregnant wife dead weight on social media and served her divorce papers on Christmas morning. You have shown no interest in this child except as a financial obligation. When you demonstrate consistent involvement and complete your required classes, we will revisit custody. Until then, supervised visits only. The judge turned to Emma. Miss Rodriguez, you are granted full legal and physical custody. The marital apartment reverts to you through the end of the lease term. All debts incurred fraudulently in your name are assigned solely to Mr. Blackwell. He will also be responsible for restitution if the criminal trial results in conviction. Do you have any questions? No, Your Honor. Thank you. Then this matter is closed. I wish you and your daughter all the best, Miss Rodriguez. I think you are going to be just fine. The gavel came down, and it was over. 3 months after the worst Christmas of Emma's life, she was finally free. Divorced, single mother, starting over completely. But not alone. Not anymore. Outside the courthouse, Robert was waiting with Linda and Jenny. He had taken the day off from work, something Emma learned he almost never did. But he had promised Violet he would not miss important moments, and apparently Emma's divorce counted as important. How do you feel? Linda asked, hugging her daughter carefully. Free. Scared. Relieved. All of it at once. That sounds about right, Jenny said. Now can we go get celebratory pancakes? I have been craving pancakes for 3 hours. They went to a diner near Emma's apartment, sat in a corner booth, ordered too much food. Violet woke up halfway through the meal and Robert asked if he could feed her the bottle Emma had prepared. He held his granddaughter with growing confidence, talking to her softly about nothing and everything while Emma ate her pancakes and watched her father learn how to be present. I got something for you, Robert said after Violet had finished eating and fallen back asleep in his arms. He pulled out an envelope from his jacket. Not a check. I know you do not want money from me. But this is different. It is an opportunity if you want it. Emma opened the envelope. Inside was a job offer from Sterling Industries. Senior Architect, Corporate Development Division. Salary that was triple what she had been making at her old firm. Benefits, flexible schedule, childcare assistance, 6 months paid parental leave. This is too much. It is what we pay for that position. I am not giving you charity. I am offering you a job you are qualified for in a company that needs good architects. You can say no. You can keep doing freelance work. But if you want stability and a career path that lets you support Violet, this is real. Emma looked at the offer letter, at the salary and benefits and possibilities. She thought about Derek, about how she had given up her career for his lies and promises. About how she had rearranged her entire life to support someone who had been using her. And she thought about Robert, about how he had spent 28 years trying to buy forgiveness he did not deserve but wanted anyway. This was not buying forgiveness. This was opening a door and letting Emma decide whether to walk through it. I will think about it. Really think about it. Not just accept because you are my father or because I feel obligated. But because it is the right choice for me and for Violet. That is all I ask. Think about it. And whatever you decide, I am still going to show up. Still going to be here for Violet's first birthday and first steps and every moment you will let me be part of. Emma looked around the table at her strange, broken, healing family. Her mother who had lied to protect her. Her best friend who had stood by her through everything. Her father who was 28 years late but trying. And sleeping peacefully in Robert's arms, her daughter Violet, who would grow up knowing the truth about complicated families and second chances. Okay, Emma said. Okay. I will take the job. But on one condition. Name it. You teach me how you built Sterling Industries. Because someday I want to build something of my own. Something Violet can be proud of. And I want to learn from someone who knows how to succeed, even if it took him too long to figure out what actually matters. Robert's eyes filled with tears for the second time in 3 months. Deal. I would be honored to teach you everything I know. They finished their pancakes while Violet slept and made plans for the future. Emma would start her new job in 2 months. Robert would help with childcare on days when Linda was busy with the bakery. Jenny would continue being the best friend and honorary aunt that every child deserved. And Derek would fade into the background of their lives, a painful memory but not a defining one. That night, after everyone had left and Violet was sleeping in her crib, Emma stood in the nursery she had painted herself. Lavender walls, white curtains, a mobile of stars hanging above the crib. This room that represented everything. The end of her marriage, the beginning of single motherhood, the complicated reconciliation with a father who had been absent, the support of a mother who had always been present. Emma picked up the purple elephant from Violet's shelf, the one Robert had given her 23 years ago. The note was still tucked inside, yellowed with age. "I will always come back to you." He had come back. 28 years late, but he had come back. And maybe that was what family was. Not perfection. Not always being there from the beginning. But showing up when it mattered. Staying when things got hard. Being present for the moments that counted. Emma kissed her sleeping daughter's forehead, whispered promises about the life they would build together. A life based on truth, even when truth was complicated. A life with family, even when family was messy. A life where being replaceable was never an option, where being valued was the only acceptable reality. Christmas had brought betrayal and loss. But it had also brought truth and second chances. And as Emma turned off the nursery light and headed to her own room, she realized that sometimes the worst moments in life crack you open just enough to let the light in. Let the healing start. Let the real story begin.